Hello everyone! I know I haven't been sharing videos in quite a while. I've sort of been taking a break from everything. And yeah, right now I have this video set up because I've been recording a few videos for an upcoming class. And I thought I'd use it and check in here on YouTube. And what I want to talk about today is social media and why I've quit quite a lot of social media services. So this is essentially the same. I've shared this in a blog post a while back, and yeah, I wanted to make it available to the people who follow me primarily here on YouTube and maybe make you think about your social media use a bit and why, especially why I don't recommend social media for artists anymore. So a few years back when I started sharing my art online, I was reading a lot about how to present it, and inevitably I saw advice that you should share your work on social media. So I started all these social media accounts and tried to build my following there. And I put a lot of time and energy into it. And at that point, I had no clear idea what being successful meant to me, but I thought it couldn't hurt to be known to as many people as possible. And social media seemed like the answer to that. And everyone kept saying, you have to have a social media account. In fact, you have to have as many as you can on as many platforms as you can. And this certainly kept me busy. I mean, social media took a lot of time and energy from me. And if you're an artist who's currently on social media, you know that this is actually a lot of work. Keeping up with making posts and the latest trends and the latest hashtags, this means a lot of work, and it has actually very little results, especially in the beginning. It also means being up to date with what others were doing. And all of this took away time from me making art and learning new things. So basically the things that I wanted to do in the first place. And it also, on the other side, it also felt sort of relaxing. So, you know, to keep scrolling through this feed of what other people were doing. And I also told myself it was inspiring. So whenever I needed a break, I reached for my phone and, you know, ingested a small dose of this inspiration. And at some point, though, I realized to keep up with all of these social media activities, you basically have to be a one-person media company at the same time. You have to market yourself constantly. And everyone in the creative industry and other industries too, basically the whole internet, subscribe to this opinion, whether they saw success from it or not. And after a few years of doing this, so I think I joined all the social media channels that I was maintaining in, I don't know, 2014 or maybe 2015. So after a few years of doing this and a lot of back and forth in the last year, I came to the conclusion that I really don't want to be on social media. And I find it more important to spend time getting better at my art, but I can't do that when I have to think of marketing myself each day. And it's not that I don't like to connect with people. It's not that I find marketing useless, because it isn't, but I like to do it in a more personal and effective way than social media can provide. So for me, social media is just not worth the time that I have to put into it. And it might have its benefits, but for me, there are not enough benefits when I weigh in the negative impacts. Let's talk a little bit about these negative sides. So one of the negative impacts is that being active on social media slowly, or maybe even instantly, took away my ability to focus and block out distractions when I was working. So focusing on my art, on my illustration work, writing, acquiring new skills and knowledge, and teach all of this in an effective way. And this process of deep concentration is what Carr Newport, who's an author and computer sciences professor, describes as deep work in his book. It has the same title, it's called Deep Work. And if you're interested in this, you should really read the book. It's really a good base for what we're covering here. So he defines deep work as professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive capabilities to their limit. These efforts create new value, improve your skill, and are hard to replicate. So the ability to do this kind of deep work is, I think, one of the most important things for people who are creative and who want to earn money with their creativity. So for any working artist or illustrator or filmmaker or photographer. Also for anyone else who works with his brain. So Cal Newport talks a lot about information workers. So if you want to create things and cultivate this ability to search for things in yourself and to put them on the page or on the canvas or wherever you want to put them, then you need to have the ability to concentrate and to focus. So you need to have the ability to sit down for long periods of time without getting interrupted. So I noticed then when I was using social media, I was really distracted and not really able to focus on the things that mattered to me. So I was becoming more scatterbrained and anxious, and it became harder for me to focus on hard things like reading difficult texts or writing or drawing, even drawing for long periods of time. Things I used to enjoy and things that are really part of my business. So instead I was drawn back to check my profiles all the time. And from what I've been reading and hearing from others, this doesn't just happen to me, but to a lot of people who use social media regularly. And that's because social media companies use a mechanism that rewards distraction to keep you coming back. So they need you to spend time on the platform so you can see the ads that their customers pay for. Every time you check your profile and see likes or comments popping up, you get a dopamine hit, not unlike a dog who hears the bell and starts to salivate. So what do? Of course you hit reload or keep checking your profile. And so this distraction is built in, and it's especially nasty in combination with a smartphone, that device you always have with you and that can even pull you out of a phase of deep concentration with a notification sound. And this is actually something that these companies took from digital slot machine designers. You can read more about this in Cal Newport's new book, Digital Minimalism, which I also can really recommend, and also in Jaron Lanier's book, which is called 10 Arguments for Deleting Your Social Media Accounts Right Now. I will list all the recommendations or the books below. So I don't want to put social media and tech companies necessarily into a bad light here, although I sure would have some critical questions for them, and there are a lot of very questionable decisions they've made and still make. For example, these addictive mechanisms were consciously built into their apps, although we don't even know how it will affect our brains in the long run. And I know they already have affected me in a very bad way after a short while. Sean Parker, who's Facebook's former president, has stated that their platform was exploiting vulnerability in human psychology. You can exchange Facebook here with any of these other social networks. Again, Jaron Lanier, the computer scientist and computer philosopher, describes this mechanism with the following acronym: Behavior of users modified, made into an empire for rent. Bummer. So it sounds funny and almost a little bit harmless, but what this mechanism stands for quickly turns into something far more sinister if you take a look at the recent documentary The Great Hack, which takes a closer investigative look at the Cambridge Analytica incident. So what's happening here is happening on a scale that affects everyone in society. Let's go back to the artist who keeps getting distracted by social media. So what's obvious is that these distractions diminish our ability to go into focused work states. They also change our relationship to attention. As for me, I was constantly thinking of how I can produce more content for someone's feed. Do you notice the wording? The kind of thinking that these companies have introduced, particularly for members of the creative industry because they produce the most beautiful pieces of content out there, is not only time-consuming and distraction-inducing, it's a downright affront on intellectual property rights. A lot of artists have a hard enough time already convincing people to pay for their work, illustrations, music, texts, videos, etc. All of this is worth something. It's someone's intellectual property. And on social media platforms, you agree to produce an endless stream of content for free, making it even harder to convince people to pay you for your work. And sure, there are also artists that get discovered or hired through social media, but the general direction we are moving in is that all of these things should be free. Of course, the artists aren't forced to do all of this because they willingly join social media, and this because they think it's for their benefit. So I think this is really absurd. After all I've read about these platforms and experienced myself, I don't want to be a content creator for them, and you shouldn't either. Since the rise of social media, a lot of businesses, but especially artists, have diminished themselves into the role of being someone who produces content every day for free for these social media companies, so that they will have something new in their feed. You can only consume all of this content by infinitely scrolling through a mass of posts, images, and comments. And the problem with this content isn't that it's bad or shallow or anything. I've seen very thoughtful and interesting posts and that I've enjoyed, but it's that in the long run we can only treat it in a shallow way. So all of this content is part of a never-ending stream of messages, so your feed, that we have to get through. And there's never a lot of time to spend with an individual message. So the post itself will only have attention for a maximum of a few hours. And then it's gone in a digital nirvana. It's not that you can't have meaningful exchanges on social networks, it's that these companies make it quite hard to do so, and they make it a disruptive experience. So I, for one, think it's not a very economical way to spend my time producing a stream of content that only will be seen for a second or so. I also think it's not a very good thing to build someone else's platform with your creative property. And lastly, I don't buy the idea that social networks are the main channels through which artists can be found and get opportunities these days. So to me, these platforms are the new gatekeepers, and they make you jump through hoops to please their algorithms for a few likes. I know more and more books and studies have recently come out that show these effects, that social media makes people more anxious, even depressed. It can actually increase feelings of loneliness. So these platforms can have a huge effect on your self-worth. You can read more about this topic in Sherry Turkle's book, Alone Together. Let's go back to my story. All of this made me think. So in 2018, I started to take breaks from social media, each longer in duration. I had these moments of clarity, you could call them, and I realized that social media was slowly killing my creativity and also my autonomy as an artist. So without social media, I finally had time for the things that I really wanted to spend time with. My art, my illustration business, learning new things, reading books, going deep on one thing instead of being distracted by a daily search for dopamine hits. I also blocked my access to news sites during those breaks and to other sites that I knew were time sinks to me. So it wasn't only social media. I know that I've tried to build these systems and use these platforms more consciously, and I tried to block access at certain times and only came there to post and answer comments. And in the end, I have to say, for me, this didn't really work so well. After a short while, I was back into infinitely scrolling. And do you know what was the worst about my social media use? It didn't even feel good. It didn't feel good to scroll through Instagram or to check Facebook 50 times a day. Instead, I felt like I wasn't even in control of these things. And a lot of people describe similar behavior or feelings, and studies show this kind of social media use can actually be a form of addiction, low-level behavioral addiction. So this is behavior of users modified. And for me, the logical conclusion was to just delete my accounts. Not only because I don't want to spend time on there, because I don't want to make other people spend more time on these platforms. So for me, the right decision was just to quit these services to make sure that I don't spend all my day there. And this might not be what works best for you, but it was a freeing experience for me that felt right, and I haven't looked back since. So I know it's a bit weird to say all of this on YouTube, because YouTube is seen by many people as a social media platform too. And it certainly has also this algorithm that wants to keep you on the platform. But I decided to keep my YouTube channel for now, and also to upload more videos to it when I feel like it. But I may change this decision in the future when I find out that I don't want to have a YouTube channel anymore. So for me, it's all about making decisions, making clear decisions about how I want to spend my time and how I feel when I engage with a certain technology. So I know where I want my energy to go, and I'm pretty sure it's not social media, it's not Facebook, it's not Instagram. I want to focus on my creativity and on more analog things in life, and these make me more calm and more centered. And if I want, I can even be bored, just stare outside into the sky while I'm thinking, which is something that I love to do. So I'd really like to know your opinion on this. Leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have experienced similar things, if you've taken breaks from social media before, or what you use it for. And I'm especially interested in people who think they need social media for their businesses. So I'd really like to know your opinions. So thank you for your time, and I'll see you soon. Bye.